Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Pre Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, good morning, everyone. We are covering Canto 3, Chapter 13, Text 34. I'll begin with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Alright, share my screen. Is it well visible, Lakshmikant
Yes,
Prabhu?
Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. Rishya uchuhu jitam jitam te jitayagya bhavana trayim tanum swam paridhunvate namaha yadromagarteshu niliyuradhayyas tasmai nama karana sukarayate. Nice verse. It's the Rishya uchuhu. These are glorified sages uttered, as the translation says here. But it's being spoken by it's being spoken by Brahma and the various sages and rishis of the upper planetary system, starting from Janaloka, Maharaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. And therefore, Lord Brahma is there as the chief person who's speaking. This is discussed in text 24 and 25 of the same chapter that Brahma Mukhya, that is the chief person among all of them, is Lord Brahma, and the other sages of the upper planetary systems are along with him, glorifying Lord Varaha Dev. And this is a time of dissolution or recreation, and so the Earth planet has been submerged in the waters of dissolution, in the Garbhodaka ocean specifically. So, back to the verse. Jitam jitam te jita yagya bhavana Tarim tanum swam paridhunvate namaha Yadrovagarteshu niliyur adhyas tasmai namah karana sukarayate. Translation: all the sages uttered with great respect. O unconquerable enjoyer of all sacrifices, All glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body, the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, parentheses, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord can assume any form he likes, and in all circumstances, he is the cause of all causes. Since his form is transcendental, he is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is in the causal ocean, the form of Mahavishnu. Innumerable universes generate from the holes of his bodily hairs, and thus his transcendental body is the Vedas personified. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and is the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is never to be misunderstood to be other than the Supreme Lord, because of his assuming the form of a boar to lift the earth. That is the clear understanding of sages and great personalities like Brahma and other residents of the higher planetary systems. So, what has happened thus far, just to catch us up, is that Lord Brahma is continuing on with this process of creation. The personality just before this episode that was created was Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu is his son, and the first Manu in this yuga, in this in every day of Brahma, there's 14 Manus, and the first Manu is Swayambhuva Manu, at least in this particular day of Brahma. So Brahma is woken up, and Swayambhuva Manu is the Manu who is produced from Lord Brahma. And they have such a beautiful, wonderful exchange between them. Swayambhuva Manu as the father, and Swayambhuva Manu as the son, and Brahma as the father. Brahma comments of how submissive and free of nirvyalika, free of any kind of pretension, free of hesitation, free of lethargy, free of duplicity. And because of his nature, of his very simple, submissive nature, Brahma really blesses him and requests him of some very confidential service, which is, can you help me create more progeny in this world? Because that is my service. I want you to assist me, please. And so Swayambhuva Manu says, sure, I'll do it. He's very, again, submissive and ready to follow the instructions of his father. And he asked Brahma for some help. He says, I like to do this, but where do we populate people? Like, there's no earth planet. Can you make an arrangement so that the earth that's submerged in the ocean be reinstated, so I can continue my service that you've asked of me? So this is a very natural thing. When we are asked of some service for Krishna, we may need help, and it's very natural to ask help from Krishna or representatives of Krishna or devotees of Krishna to assist us in our service to Krishna. So Swayambhuva Manu does that, and Brahma considers his request and says and thinks that it's important that to support him. And so Brahma starts to meditate. How can we do this? How is the earth planet going to actually be uplifted from the depths of the ocean? And as he's meditating in that way, he's only meditating. He doesn't have a solution. From his nostrils comes a boar. I mean, it's surprising. It's like shocking. And they're taken aback by this small boar coming out of his nostril, and all of a sudden the boar starts to grow in size. What's going on? This is really strange. Of course, Brahma having four heads itself is strange, and all of those things. But Lord Boar is, it's a really strange scenario. And then Varaha at that time goes to the Garbhodak ocean, splits the ocean, lifts the earth with his tusks, and reinstates the earth in its proper position for Swayambhuva Manu to now populate the earth. So in the previous verse, and I'll share my screen again here. So we see in the previous verse, the Lord has now picked up the earth. It says, then the Lord, playing like an elephant, suspended the earth on the edge of his curved white tusks. He assumed a bluish complexion like that of a tamal tree, and thus the sages, headed by Brahma, could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offered respectful obeisances unto him. He had also, Maitreya Muni, as he's narrating this, comments that Varaha destroyed the demon Hiranyaksha, and that his face becomes bloody because he killed the demon with his tusks. So the acharyas really go to town with this one. And we recently heard from His Holiness Rompad Swami, who explained that in Laghu Bhagavatamrita by Rupa Goswami, that Maitreya is merging two appearances of Varaha Dev in this one narration. Because the context is creation, where Swayambhuva Manu was just born. And where's the question of Hiranyaksha? Hiranyaksha has not been produced yet. Kashyapa has not been married yet to Diti. Diti is not even there. Daksha is not even there. And because Diti and Daksha are not there, so then how can Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha even be there? So this is very early. That's happening in the creation. So how can this form of Varaha be the one who's killed Hiranyaksha? Because Hiranyaksha is far into the future. So our sages describe that this Varaha that's being described here in 13th chapter of the Bhagavatam, third canto of the Bhagavatam, is discussing the first Varaha appearance, which is called the Shukla Varaha, or the white Varaha, or that Varaha whose primary activity is to lift the ocean that's submerged into Garbhodak ocean. Sorry, lift the earth from Garbhodak ocean. And now, later on in the sixth Manu, Chakshusha Manu, is when Hiranyaksha was doing his nefarious activities, and that's when Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha. Anyway, so both those Varaha appearances are being merged in this narration without necessarily letting us know exactly what's going on. But thankfully our acharyas explain it, so it becomes clear for us. So the scene is this, and I'm showing my screen here with a beautiful painting I found of Lord Varaha. It discusses how his body is bluish hue. So here we see the bluish hue. His tusks are holding up the earth planet. And the sages are observing this form of the Lord, and they're making their glorification in the verse that we covered today. So here Lord Varaha splits the Garbhodak ocean. As we see, the ocean is split, and the waves of the ocean reach up as if to pray to the Lord, kindly be kind upon us. So anyway, this picture is like the meditation of Brahma and the other sages, and so they say the verse that they say. In their verse they offer 5 characteristics of Lord Varaha that they particularly appreciate. So as we go through these 5 characteristics, you can keep this image of Lord Varaha in your mind. Savior of the earth. All right, so the 5 characteristics that are being discussed here. The first one, Jitam Jitam, may you always be victorious. Te, Ajita. The word Ajita is being used. Ajita means one who cannot be conquered. Jita means conquered, and Ajita means one who cannot be conquered. So that's actually a name of one of our devotees, Ajit, who recently got initiated. Ajit is Ajita, same. Unconquerable. Krishna is unconquerable. Recently, we just celebrated Lord Nityananda's appearance day. And one of the pastimes I like to read about Lord Nityananda is how he subdued dacoits that wanted to steal from him in Navadvip when he had jewels of various kinds. Because Nityananda is an Avadut, he had pearl necklaces, gold necklaces, diamond bracelets, and all kinds of beautiful armlets and ankle bells and all kinds of beautiful jewelry that one king robber thought, hey, this is going to be really cool. Like, it steal all of this stuff. We don't have to do multiple heists to get all of this wealth. We just have to steal from one person. We've got it all. So they tried to steal from Lord Nityananda. And it's a beautiful story. I won't get too much into it, but whatever they tried to do, Lord Nityananda bewildered them at every step. The first time they went to try to steal from him, he was in the house of Hiranya Pandit, a Brahmana, and he put some mystical maya on them, and they just slept the whole night right outside the house, unable to go into the house and steal from Nityananda. The second time around, when they came to the house, Lord Nityananda arranged for the illusion, or maybe the reality, of some big, large soldiers just holding arms and chanting the whole name and marching up and down around the house, and these dacoits were diverted and scared and didn't know what happened. So that was the second time. The third time, the night was dark, and as they tried to approach the house, Lord Nityananda arranged for them to fall into trenches and the food waste hole, and they got bitten by scorpions, and they got torn by thorns, and it was a mess for them. So the robber commented, and it's captured by Vrindavana Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavat. The robber, at the head of the robbers, commented that Lord Nityananda, he's unconquerable. He's the Lord himself. I realize now I'm trying to mess with the wrong person. So Ajita. Krishna is Ajita. Varaha is Ajita, or unconquerable. Yet at the same time, he is conquered by his devotee. So we see here in this particular context that Varaha has appeared because Brahma is confused and wanting to serve. Actually, Brahma is thinking his mood is service to his own servant. His servant is Swayambhuva Manu, who is looking to populate the planet. And Swayambhuva Manu says, there's no planet to populate. Can you help me get a planet? So Brahma says, okay, but I don't know how. And so he's meditating, and Varaha is conquered by the love of Brahma, who wants to populate the earth and is asked Swayambhuva Manu to populate the earth. So this affection that we see between Varaha, Brahma, and Swayambhuva Manu is very, very strong. And Ajita, the unconquerable Lord Varaha or Krishna, is conquered by his devotee. Lord Brahma also speaks about this unconquerable nature of the Lord and how he's conquered in the 10th canto. 14th chapter, 3rd verse, famous verse. It's captured here. Gyane prayasam namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam stane stitha shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir ye prayasho jita jito pyasite strilokyam. You see the word here? Ajita jita. The unconquerable is conquered. How? First of all, Jnane prayasam udapasya. The strong pursuit of empirical knowledge is thrown away, udapasya. And then one humbly submits onto jivanti sanmukharitam, onto the words and the speech of the great devotees of the Lord. They stay in their position, sthane sthita, whether they grahastha or vanaprastha or sannyasi or brahmana or vaishya or shudra, whatever their social position is, whatever is their psychophysical nature is, they stay in their position, they engage in their duty, they engage in shrutigatam, always hearing about the pastimes and instructions of the Lord, and dedicate themselves to with body, with mind, and with their speech unto the Lord. And in that way they can conquer him. This is not the only verse where in the Bhagavatam this phrase of ajita jita is mentioned, of how to conquer the unconquerable. There's another very interesting one, especially for the grahasthas that are hearing this. I'll show you in the 7th canto, 14th chapter, that speaks of grahastha life. Here in this verse, this is being spoken by Narada Muni to Yudhishthir, where he says, you see the last line, it says ajita jita. Same thing. How the unconquerable person, Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's unconquerable, how does he become jita? How does he become conquered? One, so seriously considers one's wife to be his own. This idea of having one's wife as one's own, like having sense of possession of one's wife or family members, that he sometimes kills himself for her or kills others, including his parents or his spiritual master or teacher. There are many, many movies that are made of such stories where people consider their partners or the woman of the movie to be so madly in love with them that they do stupid things like killing their own parents or teacher or whoever. Therefore, this is Narada Muni saying, if one can give up his attachment to his wife, he conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never conquered by anyone. As a grahastha, I find that really interesting. What a statement, that you conquer Krishna by giving up attachment to one's wife. Anyway, so we'll go back to our verse here. So the first characteristic of Lord Varaha is Ajita. He's unconquerable. The second characteristic that mentioned here is Yagya Bhavana, and it's being translated or understood in different ways. In the word for word, it's explained here, one who's understood by performance of sacrifice. In the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the whole exposition of Yagya is presented by Krishna. He mentions it in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita to say that Yagyartat karmanodyatra lokoyam karma bandhana, that when one engages in Yagya for the purpose of pleasing Vishnu, then one can become free from the bondage of karmic reaction. And then in chapter 4, there's a whole section of the different yagyas that one can perform. Different sacrifices, the sacrifice of the hearing process, the sacrifice of avoiding sense gratification, the sacrifice of breath control, pranayam, the sacrifice of giving in charity, etc., etc., etc. There's a long list of different kinds of sacrifices that are recommended for different kinds of people. And the conclusion of that section, Krishna says, to properly engage in sacrifice and to actually know the supreme truth, one should approach a spiritual master. So here, the word yagya bhavana is used, which means that in this context, one who is understood by performance of sacrifice, meaning as we engage in yagya, as we live a more selfless life, as opposed to a selfish life, because that's what sacrifice is we less about ourselves and more about giving. Sacrifice is giving, right? By engaging in a selfless process of sacrifice, then Krishna can be understood. Krishna is not revealed to one who holds on to their material attachments. That's another way of saying it. According to Vishwanath Chakri Thakur in his translation and commentary on this verse, he explains that this yagya bhavana is that Krishna is the source of sacrifice, meaning he provides, like through the Vedas, he provides all the ways that one can perform sacrifice. I just explained in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, Krishna explains the various kinds of sacrifices one can perform. And also, Vishwanath Chakri Thakur comments that he's a protector of sacrifice. That the process of sacrifice, Krishna protects. And you could say he's like the protector of religion. When one of the reasons that Krishna appears is to protect religion or protect sacrifice. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya, for the purpose of establishing religion or protecting religion. Krishna protects, Krishna appears. So that's the second characteristic of Lord Varaha being explained in these verses. The third characteristic is the second line here. It says, Traim tanum swam paridhunvate namaha. Or paridhunvate. So, Traim tanum, the threefold, Traim, it also is a personified Vedas. Traim tanum, tanum is body. So his body is made of the threefold Vedas. Paridhunvate, paridhunvate is to shake or move around. He just come out of the ocean, so he's probably shaking to get some of the water off his body. Or he's moving around with his Veda personified body. In Bhagavad Gita, again, we hear of that verse in the second chapter, Traigunya Vishya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjana. Generally, we hear the Vedas of four divisions, Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Veda. But sometimes they're also known as the three Vedas because I believe it's the Atharva Veda that's sometimes captured in another one of the Vedas. So you can split them up in three or you can split them in four. So Traim is three. So Traim Tanum is the three Vedas. All three Vedas are within his body. When we come in touch with the Sanskrit scriptures, when coming in touch directly with Krishna, just like the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the body of Krishna. The first and second canto is Lotus Feet, and then gradually rising up through his transcendental and powerful, wonderful, beautiful body, all the way up to his lotus face, which is the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So our appreciation of the Bhagavatam is more than just a book. It's Krishna's body, confirmed here by the sages. And one can worship Srimad Bhagavatam accordingly and can have deep appreciation for the body of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the third quality or characteristics of Varaha. The fourth one is Yad Roma Garteshu Nilayur Adhayyas. So in whose Yad Roma Garteshu. So Roma is bodily hairs, Garteshu is the holes. So in the holes of the bodily hairs of Lord Varaha, our oceans are situated. Wow. Similar to the universal form of the Lord. Oceans are situated in the bodily hairs of the Lord. In the bodies that we have as spiritual souls, we've got material bodies, and these material bodies, we didn't ask for it. We happen to have holes. And from the pores of the skin, from which hair grows, for most of us, from the pores of the skin of our body, sweat generates, right? We get salty sweat that comes out of it. What the sages are appreciating is Krishna's greatness is so great that oceans, salty oceans, come out of it. So the magnitude of Krishna's body is unfathomable in one sense. The way Prabhupada liked to explain it in the purport, that particular feature, he says, he is in the causal ocean in the form of Mahavishnu, and innumerable universes generate from the holes of his bodily hairs. That's how he says. So that's another way to read it, because then from the universes, many oceans come. It's fascinating. I don't know if any of you here on the call or who will hear this read about or consider some of space exploration's findings. They recently found a black hole that's 7 light years in diameter, or wide, pretty wide, really wide. It's a huge black hole that has this, at least that's what they think it is, and that has this glow at the event horizon of matter just being consumed by it, that every day some kind of millions of volumes of our sun is being gobbled into that black hole. And one of my considerations is how fascinating the universe is. Absolutely fascinating. It's huge, it's humongous, it's beyond the scope of our intelligence. My goodness, even to consider the solar system, what to speak of the universe. Just the solar system in itself is so fascinating and mysterious, mystery filled. And then the entire universe, one entire universe, comes from one pore of Mahavishnu's body. What? How great is Krishna? Prabhupada would say, people say God is great, but how great is Krishna? That they do not know. And I can very clearly see, I do not know. God, the concept of God and his greatness is just way beyond, way beyond our intellectual capacity. So the sages are appreciating this fourth characteristic, that great oceans come from the bodily hairs of Lord Varaha. And then the last characteristic is Karana Sukaraya. In the translation explains that that for certain reasons, Karana, reasons or cause, for certain reasons or causes, which is to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the Sukara. Sukha means Sukara means pig or hog or boar. So Krishna takes on the form of a sukara to perform that activity of lifting the earth from the ocean. But in the purport, Prabhupada explains this karana, he's the cause of all causes. That's another way to read this characteristic, that ultimately Varaha or Krishna is the cause of all causes of anything that we might experience in this world. One last point before I conclude here. The sages twice in the verse use the word namaha. So that's why in the translation it says all the sages uttered with great respect. Twice they use the word namaha. Twice they want to offer their obeisances. The word namaha, nama, ma is me or false ego, and nama is to negate one's false ego and offer respect to another person. So the sages are having this mood as they're meditating, going back to the image I showed earlier, as they're meditating on this form of Lord Varaha, this bluish tinted form carrying the earth, having separated the ocean to lift the earth. As their gaze is fixed upon him and they're glorifying him in these various ways that we just described, their mood is namaha, that we are really small, insignificant, and therefore, and you're so great. We offer you all respect with our hearts, deep within our hearts. We truly have a lot of appreciation for you, for who you are, what you do, and ultimately, that's pushing into the realm of love. The sages actually love Lord Varaha. Okay, so I will pause there and see if there are any comments or reflections. Is there a particular characteristic of Lord Varaha that, of these 5 characteristics, that you particularly like or resonated with?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for explaining these 5 characteristics of Varaha. So those 2 Varahas, Prabhu, in the beginning of the class, in Chakshush Manu and Swayambhu Manu, right? So I think the questions that came, from the earlier verses, I was just thinking about those. They're technical questions in the sense, but I thought I'll ask you. So, one is actually Swayambhu Manu, very obedient to Lord Brahma, and then he was accepting to do the service what Brahma gave to him. But here it says that the planet Earth is the abode of all the living entities, right? So, what was the reason? Because from our understanding is that living entities exist in all the planets as well, but primarily talking about Earth. So, can you please share your thoughts on that, Prabhu?
It's complicated. We know at dissolution that the earth and below are, I'm sorry, from Swarga and below are not populated and are dissolved.
Hmm.
So at every day of Brahma, when Brahma wakes up, he has to build up the 7 planetary systems below the earth, and then the Bhurbhuva Swar, these 3 layers of planetary systems have to be reinstated and then repopulated. So one would say, okay, why only earth? Why isn't, you know, Bhuvar and Swargaloka also reinstated, and all the seven planetary systems below the Earth, right?
Yeah.
Patal, Sutal, and the others. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. I'd have to think about it,
Mm.
or
So
not think about it necessarily, research it, see what our chairs might say. But here we're seeing specifically with the Earth planet that is being picked up, and that's why Manu has requested that it be reinstated. Yeah, I'm not sure. I
yeah, that's what he says in the
don't have
verse
an answer.
30th, verse 30, Prabhu. He saw the earth, the resting place for all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of the creation,
Right,
and he personally lifted it. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and then the question is why not
that's right. Yeah.
why not
And
Bhuvar and Swarga and other planetary systems?
no, no, the question is actually it says that the resting place for all living beings. That's how he's saying it. So that's what I was asking.
Yeah, but the living beings are in other planets as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not of any help.
No problem. That's what I was thinking. I'm sure you will have some.
All right. Anything else anyone want to bring up? Any of the five characteristics that you particularly liked of Lord Varaha?
I mean, one thing, Prabhu, I mean, how I don't remember. Maybe in this section itself, it talks about how the Earth planet was, right? Even like a mustard seed for him, right? So, was it in this section? I mean, I don't recollect.
I don't think it's this one, no.
Okay, it was like a so small. I don't know, maybe some devotee shared or Maharaj shared. I don't remember. I mean, it was like so small for him, right? It was not like heavy. So I mean, it was such a such. I mean, from that perspective, right? We can understand how great God is. I mean, you are saying that yeah, God is great, but how great He is.
Yeah.
So I mean, the universes are coming from His. I mean, if just to imagine that, just imagine how our solar system is. I mean, it's very difficult even to understand that. Put it into our mind, right? So I mean there are a lot of literature. People have, I mean, huge telescopes and they have done a lot of research and they found it something from whatever they know. But even to understand that it's not possible for a common person, right? So, I mean, even for anybody, right? Just to put that into our brain. So, how about the whole universe, our whole creation? So, which is just coming from the pores of Lord Vishnu. So, I mean, how
I
is
mean,
it?
even forget about the universe, even our own planet. How many people fully understand our planet? Just recently they found mountains, three huge mountains, like having the peak, almost more than the peaks of the Himalayas. They
Hmm.
found in the Pacific Ocean. They just found it. Like,
Wow.
whoa! We didn't realize we didn't know that these mountains even existed under the ocean. The brain is so complex. One person's brain. There's 7 billion people that on this 8 billion people on this planet. Each person with a brain, and even that one brain is not fully understood.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that's just on our planet. What to speak outside of it? Nobody knows what's at the core of the Earth. They just speculate.
Yeah.
The mysteries of this world and the existence of everything, including ourselves, is so mysterious. It's everything is so mysterious. And every time you answer a question, there are 10 more questions that need answering. So
Thank you so much. The one on lighter side, the verse that you showed from seventh canto, it was very
that's not light. That's actually
no, no, it's
heavy.
not light. It's not light. I mean, to say. Thank thank you, bro. So,
Did you
right
like
from
it?
Bhagavatam.
Have you read that verse before?
I don't recollect, bro. I
Okay.
don't recollect. I mean, lot of things actually. I was just coming to my mind when you were reading. These verses. I mean, many of the verses, even from this canto, right? We read it earlier, but lot of things that come when we read again and again and again, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, it's very, I mean, interesting from Bhagavatam. So
Yeah.
that translated. Yes, Prabhu. I don't recollect reading that verse.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Prabhu. Okay, good. I think we're sounds like everyone's peaceful and happy. Will we conclude here?
One more question can I ask if anybody?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it says that personified Vedas. So maybe if you can just explain a little bit more, Prabhu, on that. So, I mean, Lord Varaha himself. I mean, there is in the I think in the 12th canto or there it says that the personified Vedas glorify the Supreme Lord. But here, Lord Varaha himself is a personified Vedas. He says. So maybe if you can just uh, share some thoughts on that. I mean, when you say personified Vedas, you mentioned that when in come in contact with the like Bhagavatam example, right? You mentioned when we are holding Bhagavatam is like Krishna himself, right?
Yeah, so the personified, everything comes from Krishna ultimately,
Mm,
including the personified Vedas who stand separate from him to offer him prayers in certain other sections of the Bhagavatam.
mm,
Everything comes from Krishna. At the same time, the body of Varaha is being considered the personified Vedas or the Traim, Tanum, that the three Vedas are within his body. The process of spirituality or the process of religion there is and that is captured in the Vedas are not different than Krishna. That's the message
mm,
that Krishna values and puts in very high regard these Vedic teachings, and his body therefore is the Vedas themselves. So whatever Krishna does and says, it is represented in the Vedas, or vice versa. Whatever is in the Vedas is the actions and activity of Krishna, of
mm,
the body of the Supreme Lord.
mm,
And as he speaks, as the Lord speaks, that comes through his body, his breath itself is the Vedas, right? It said the breath of the Lord is the Vedas. As he speaks, is his speech are the instructions of the Vedas, etc. So the Vedas become the Vedas because it's coming from the Lord's body.
yeah.
Otherwise, they don't have separate existence. They're founded upon the Lord's body. That's my understanding.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. No, that.
Okay.
Thank you. Others have any comments or?
All right. If there's nothing else, then we'll offer respects to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all very much for spending your morning with us. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.